Jason, we're
We
recording,
are
right?
live. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Let me pull up the people. Welcome everybody. We're going to give people a couple more minutes to come in, but great to see you all here today. Shout out to our former colleague, Diane. Hi, Diane.
Hey, Diane.
Hello there.
Nice to see you. I'm going to give it one more minute and then we will get started. I always like to acknowledge people showing up on time and make the best use of their time. Okay. All right. See people continuing to come in. Welcome, everybody. Okay. Let's get started. So welcome to CoachSource's First Friday webinar for October. We thank you all so much for joining us today. And we give a particular warm welcome to our current clients as well as our not yet clients on the call. I'm Mary Dombrowski, SVP of Client Engagement with CoachSource, and I lead both our current client service teams as well as helping to create new client partnerships. For those of you not familiar with CoachSource, we are the largest pure play global executive coaching firm. We have been in business for 18 years and have over 1,200 coaches globally that we deploy in over 160 countries for leadership transformation, typically at the director level and above, including C-suite and board. CoachSource hosts webinars such as this on the first Friday of every month. At CoachSource, we believe that inspiring leadership transforms organizations. Our monthly gatherings are dedicated to empowering HR business partners and leaders of talent inside organizations with insights, strategies, and expert guidance on leveraging executive coaching to drive organizational excellence. If you have any specific topics that you would like to see us cover, feel free to email me at mary@coachsource.com. I would love to hear from you. This month, we are joined by two of our directors of coaching from the CoachSource client service team, Zia Best and Charmaine Kwame. Zia handles a diversified client portfolio that includes manufacturing, retail, finance, among other industries, and Charmaine has a particular focus in healthcare and pharmaceutical clients. One of the areas of distinction with CoachSource, Jason, if you could advance to the next slide, please, is not just that we have a network of 1,200 executive coaches that we deploy globally, but the caliber of that community of executive coaches. We use the term CoachSource Qualified to refer to our global network of some of the most elite executive coaches in the world. And we have very strict criteria shown here that coaches have to meet in order to be in that network. Every 2 years, CoachSource has an exclusive gathering led by Jeff Nally, our chief of coaching, on this call today as well, for our coaches who, at their own time and expense, choose to attend a 2-day forum of thought leadership and best practices. This year, about 70 CoachSource qualified coaches came to Dublin from around the world. And Jason, you could go to the next slide. We had individuals from South Africa, Brazil, Europe, US, Australia. That was 70 coaches representing 15 countries, a collective 674 years with CoachSource, and an average tenure of 9.6 years. Okay, so Jason, we can take the slides down and let's bring in Zia and Charmaine. We're going to have a conversation for about 40 minutes. Then we're going to open the floor to Q&A. You're also welcome to drop in your questions into chat, and we're going to do our best to address them in real time. So we want to share with you some findings that we had from this 2-day forum that we all attended. So Charmaine and Zia, welcome.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, great to be here with you. So in your roles, a good portion of your time is spent in conversation with our clients and the leaders to be coached in their organizations, and then matching those leaders to executive coaches from our global network. Tell me, for each of you, what did you find most valuable about being on site with the coaches?
Yeah, if it's okay, Charmaine, I'll start
Go
off.
ahead. Yeah, please.
Perfect. So just being with the coaches and getting a chance to get to know them. We live in a world where much of what we're doing is behind a computer screen, and everyone lives in a very small box that we can see in the upper right corner. And so it was great to have those images of those people come to life, to get a chance to engage with them on a one-on-one basis, to learn more about them, to see them up close and personal, and really kind of it helped me imagine bringing to life the process of matching, which is both an art and science of finding really great coaches to be aligned with the clients and leaders that we're serving. And so it really brought that process from off the pages right to real life, which was really wonderful. And you get to hear when you're talking to coaches, what are the types of coaching engagements that really, really keep their passions high? And what are the types of engagements that they love to do and that they've been successful with leaders on? And so it was on the ground, real time learning about these coaches back and forth in the 2 day period that we had, which was really, really phenomenal.
I think I would echo that. And this was actually my first CoachSource global conference. The last time I was in Dublin was, I think it was 2019 when I actually met our CEO, Brian Underhill. So we kind of went full circle from EMCC in 2019 to now working with CoachSource. I think what struck me was the sheer breadth of experience and knowledge in that space. There was so much diverse thinking in that room, and really having the opportunity to, in a physical space, to really get to know more about the coaches and their lived experiences. What's their business experience? What's their lived experience? What's their key insights that they're gleaning from the industry and working with leaders and sharing that with us so we can do our job even more efficiently. So I think just having that opportunity to really spend time with them, get to know them better and understand the profession and industries they're working in better was really crucial. And again, what struck me was, these coaches out of their own pocket flew from halfway across the world to be in that space because they consider their development to be really critical in their profession. So, it was great to be there.
Yeah, and it's a good point that you bring up, Charmaine, about the backgrounds and experience and lived experience, because all of that goes into when you're making a match between a leader and a coach is looking at a lot of those criteria. And the more you know it, obviously, the better
Mm,
you are at then matching with them.
that's right.
Okay,
Yeah.
so yeah, so let's talk about the individual coaches that were there. Like, what stood out to you most about the coaches who attended the forum? Obviously, there is that drive for personal and professional development that they're helping to drive in other people just by the fact that they're there. But tell me, any other observations that came up for both of you?
Yeah, for me, I think the thing that stood out brightest among all the things that I took away from coaches, which were there were many, was their keen insights on industry trends and what's happening in coaching. I think that I was most struck by the level of depth and understanding that they have about what's happening now for coaching, but also a lens towards what's happening in the future. Having those conversations with them, you could hear about trends that they were seeing in particular industries, whether it was retail or manufacturing or financial services, and you got to really get your creative wheels going by hearing the things that coaches already are hearing on the ground and things that they're already thinking about bringing into their coaching practice in the service of leaders. So that really stood out to me, as well as the fact that it's a great opportunity to get to know these coaches and to examine their executive presence up close and personal, right? If they come
That's right.
across truly strong with us, then that gives us more confidence that they might be the right types of coaches to utilize in a particular organization. And lastly, I'll just say how inspiring the coaches are and how inspired they are. They're inspired by the field of executive coaching. They're enthralled. Charmaine mentioned it. They paid for this trip on their own pocket and came to spend their time there because they're continuous learners. And I think that that really, really, truly stood out to me.
Zia, were there any particular insights, like any one or two industry insights that you pulled from conversation that you would share?
Oh, absolutely. And I think that, and it was actually in one of the topics, but just learning more about how coaches are seeing things on the ground. For example, C-suite coaching. When we talk to coaches who are coaching CEOs and presidents of company and CTOs and CIOs, they talked about the fact that when they might be doing a coaching engagement with just one of those people, that they also have a need to help bring up the skills of the entire team. That it's not
Sure.
good enough to just have the head of the spear, the tip of the spear, to be on on point, but every other piece of that also needs to be. So how do you build alignment, more team effectiveness? And so hearing those sorts of things and the way that coaches speak about it was really inspiring to me, and also validated kind of our experience of what we hear with many of our clients as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And we are now in process of putting together some more in-depth industry insights, going back over our historical data so that we can share that with our clients as well. Charmaine, how about for you?
Again, not to repeat what Zira said, but those industry insights, those patterns, those themes, those trends that are coming through, what are the key challenges for leaders that are coming up in the coaching conversations? What in those industries are going to be the things over the next 3 years that we need to pay attention to so we can add value to our partnerships with our organizations? So I went to the forum actually with 2 client meetings coming up in short succession. And through the conversations that I had, I actually came out more prepared for those conversations with our partners, more informed about what was happening in some of the pharma spaces, what's important for them, what some of their leaders are talking about, some of the AI challenges and what people are thinking around the tech space. So it actually allowed me to go into those meetings more informed and be able to share that with our partners. So I think there's more that we can do there, but I certainly got a real benefit from those individual conversations. And I think in addition, a lot of the coaches are published authors. They're doing lots of research in the space. So the ICF have just released a paper around AI and tech and the impact on the coaching profession. One of our coaches was heavily involved in that. So it allows us to keep at the edge of our profession and know what's happening by having those conversations with coaches.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're going to get to AI, of course, in a few minutes, a bit in the session. So let's talk first. One of the first keynotes that we had there was led by Philippe Rosinski, and his topic was weaving culture into executive coaching for creativity, impact, and unity. Typically, we think about culture in terms of countries or regions, yet Philippe went deeper and spoke about how culture can take many different forms. So would you each share some observations from his session, particularly in light of the cultural challenges that our clients are experiencing?
Absolutely. I think that for me, his session really kind of expanded my thinking in a great way. I'm a practitioner in the diversity and inclusion space. I lead our efforts here at CoachSource. And so being there for that session, I learned some things that I didn't quite think about before, which was how we define culture, right? That many clients might talk to us about what the company culture is, but there's so many different facets of subcultures, right? Hybrid versus remote versus in office, right? Is a culture, right? And how do you bridge the divide? And what do we need to think about to make sure that we're understanding the different ways that culture has weaved itself into organizations, and how you make sure that leaders are understanding what that culture is and finding a way to show up authentically within that culture, I thought was really, really mind blowing. Plus, we know that diversity is important, but what was really fascinating, and I think, Charmaine, we had a conversation about this right after, was innovation. Like, how did that piece strike you?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, we're thin on the ground with studies and research in the diversity and the impact of diversity space. But, there is very clear evidence that shows us diversity of thought in teams is crucial for innovation and creativity. And again, that comes up in conversations with leaders when they're talking about balancing the demands of the job um, with having to be innovative and having to think differently with all the changing tech that's happening. So, I found that really interesting in how we kind of stay on the pulse with ensuring that our diversity of coaches remains constantly evaluated. So it really reflects what leaders need. I think the connection I made from what I heard from Philippe was looking at it from the systemic lens. So our leaders are looking at their identity through different systems. They're looking at it through educational systems, family systems, professional systems, faith, hobbies, interests, social, which, that's all tied to their identity and values. And how this shows up in conversations is around executive presence. So leaders are wanting to improve their executive presence and show up differently in line with what the organisation values and expectations are, but not wanting to compromise on their own unique identity and authenticity. The sheer value of who they are and how they show up has got them where they are now. So it's getting that balance between what do I do to shift my exec presence so that I am showing up in the way that I need to as a senior leader, but not at the expense of who I am and what's important to me. So I made that connection slightly different by what I was hearing from Philippe, but it was fascinating. It's always great to hear more, and we're always doing more work around how we can improve our ways of working at CoachSource in the inclusion agenda.
Yeah, and it's interesting, isn't it, how our coaches maneuver in all of these different cultural ways. I mean, Charmaine, you're dealing right now with a European company that has presence in the Midwest and the clashes that they're going through, and that transcends so many levels, right? It's a company culture, it's a communication issue, it's country culture, and then it's individuals and how each individual comes into play. And I know, Zia, you deal with that in your clients as well. And we bring these coaches in and these coach pools, and and they're able to navigate all of these different cultural aspects, depending on the organization they're in and the challenges that they're facing. So that's quite agile and agility that
Absolutely.
shows with that.
Yeah, and it goes
Yeah.
deeper than what's on the surface level, Mary, right? That this is
Right.
not always observable diversity. And to still be open to that and to see the power of diverse mindsets and thoughts coming together for the greater good is where a lot of innovation is happening, where they're developing new things, creating new systems and processes. And so while we might be light on data, I think the anecdotal effects are absolutely real.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And of course, in this age of hybrid and remote working, where teams can be all over the place, no matter where the company is based, the team can be all over the place. And so understanding that as well. Okay, so let's go to Dan Feldman. So Dan Feldman, another CoachSource coach, leads our team coaching practice. And he spoke, this kind of dovetails into the culture, right? He spoke about effectively structuring team coaching engagements. So tell us about some of the highlights from his session, and let's bring in some real world applications that we're seeing our clients deal with in terms of team performance, team effectiveness.
Yeah, I think one of the first things to do is make sure that we're thinking from a unified definition of what team coaching is, right? That there's a difference between team coaching and group coaching, that we typically have defined a group as not being intact and a team as being intact, right? People who work together regularly, who are driving forward. And so what I heard from that session was thinking about and understanding the different types of team development modalities, right? And under that guise, if we want the team to be more effective, well, what does that mean? What do we actually need? Is it team building? Is it helping team members bond through short-term activities? Is it team training? Are we trying to make sure that they're acquiring specific knowledge or skills through structured learning curriculum? Is it team consulting? Are we solving a specific problem or a challenge? Or is it team facilitation? Are we helping that team to manage themselves through facilitated dialogue, through a structured process? And so understanding what the challenge is will help you deploy the right modality of team solutions in order to really meet the needs of the leaders. And again, a part of that process that I heard was, what are the reasons why team coaching might be utilized, right? If there's a team performance challenge, for example, if you need to resolve some tensions and conflicts amongst team members and have them up level their collective leadership capabilities, or also if they're brand new team members, right? They're coming into something that there already is a culture around. How do they integrate themselves into that culture and then make it their own and find ways to contribute in unique ways that allow them to really stand out and thrive as well? So those are just a couple of the things that really resonated for me in that particular session.
Charmaine, I'm coming to you in a second, but I just wanted to add, Zia, in that as well, is that, we have some clients we're working with where we come in at the beginning of team formation so that we get to a collective set of goals and agreements within the team so that we don't get to the point, hopefully,
Right.
of there being a non-performing team. So that's another proactive measure that we've been seeing with some clients.
Yeah, and absolutely, and recognizing the support that each new team member might need when they join the team, right?
Mm,
Understanding that we have to meet people where they are, and there's going to be a level of understanding and clarity that they're going to need in order to really be successful contributors to a thriving team. And so allowing that space and that grace to build that competency to ask those questions and to think about how that person is absorbing all of this information is key. I mean, I would love it if we got a chance to come in at the very beginning, to establish when a
mm,
brand new team is forming. But that's probably less often, right? We're often
yeah.
utilized, and the work that I'm generally doing is how do we correct something that's wrong? But there is so much value in being able to proactively set up systems, processes, and programs that are going to make sure that newly formed teams that are just getting together start off on the right foot with the right foundation.
Absolutely. Charmaine, how about for you?
So a huge increase in the ask and interest around team and group coaching. And I think that's partially connected to the amount of internal shifts within organizations. Organizations are reconfiguring like I haven't seen before. So there's a huge focus on leaders having to work across organizations in a completely different way and really focus on the enterprise leadership piece, and as opposed to just honing in on their part of the business. Networks are changing as people are shifting, leaving organizations, new people are stepping in, established networks are changing. So having to build new relationships to build credibility and influence. Working across the intercultural difference as a remote team, I've got plenty of examples of where teams are feeling the rub and tension because they're not physically in the same space, but also there's the cultural tensions around how one part of the business operates in one country versus another. Um, and I'd also describe, team and group coaching as a leadership development program because we design these and we bespoke them. So we sit down with organizations and really think about what's the intended outcome for them, what are they looking to achieve, and then we build the intervention based on that. So more often than not, it isn't just team or group coaching. You'll often have one-to-one exec coaching there. You'll have some facilitation. You may have some classroom-based coaching that's themed around the areas that they're looking to improve in. So it is very much developing a program that has team or group coaching embedded as part of that approach. I've got two examples recently that I have. So one organization wanted to improve communication skills in one part of the business. They were really struggling with that. So they wanted to create a team coaching effort, but they built in some classroom-based modules around communication skills. They also are thinking about having some short, sharp one-to-one exec coaching sessions built in for leaders to develop the work that they're doing in that space on a one-to-one basis. You often see a C-suite engagement then turn into team or group coaching because C-suite leader is focusing on their development and then thinking, actually, I need to transpose some of that change into my own team. So you'll often see that naturally occur when you're working with C-suite leaders. That's just two examples I've seen. And another thing I've found quite useful, and it's not always a case, but when you're working with HR business partners that are always thinking about budgets and having to deliver much with less, basically, sometimes they don't understand that you be cost effective with the use of team or group coaching. So where you're working with groups that are trying to achieve the same objectives, you can actually think about how to deploy your budgets more effectively. And rather than trying to reach all of those leaders or not with one-to-one coaching, you can start with team or group coaching. So I'll often have these conversations with our partners about how they get best value out of their budgets. What are they trying to achieve? What's the right intervention, rather than just saying, yeah, just go ahead with one-to-one coaching when it isn't the most appropriate at that time. So they're the sorts of things that I'm seeing in these conversations around group and team coaching.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
great.
I'm so glad you said that, Charmaine. It made me think that, the discovery process and building a team coaching engagement is really important. And that's something that
Mm,
we ask for and we do get from most of our clients. Our clients that want to utilize team coaches really rely on their candor and they tell us what the situation is. They share as much as possible so that our team coaches have the ability to really think about what the scope and the level of intervention might need to be for this particular team, and really make sure that they're aligned with the expected outcomes and goals for that particular team. So
mm,
I just didn't want to lose that part of the process, that it is
mm,
a collaboration between our clients and our coaches to really build what's necessary and to
mhm,
create the systems of measurement so we make sure that this team is really performing at the end in the way that is intended. And so it's a wonderful process. I've seen it being used more and more. I've got a huge apparel company that has been looking for team coaching for their C-suite leaders. They want to make sure that they're thinking about a cost-effective approach that gives people the ability to develop one-to-one, but also develop and grow as a team. And there's something really powerful about going through something with your team that makes you stronger on the other end. And I think our clients that request team coaching understand that, and they certainly have seen that benefit.
Yeah, and then you're able to help them understand where it may be the best solution and where there might be a different intervention needed.
Right.
Yeah, that's great. Okay. So of course it wouldn't be 2024 if we weren't discussing AI and technology. Of course, our focus specifically is how this is impacting executive coaching. And Carol Braddock, our resident technology expert in the coach pool, walked through some of the technology tools and use cases. So let's talk about what your takeaways were from that session, what you heard from the coaches take away from that session, anything in particular that our clients should be thinking about as technology and AI become more active elements of human coaching. And, and I say that, and that comes back from our session last month with Woody, about AI and technology and coaching. And he said he was making the distinction between human coaching versus what can happen now with some of these chatbots. And Jeff Nally, I'll also invite you to participate in here if you want to add anything, but let's let Zia and Charmaine go first about AI and technology in executive coaching.
Yeah, Charmaine and I actually had quite the back and forth talking about this, because
did.
I think the thing that really struck me, and you said that the same thing for you, was in Carol's presentation, she put up a quote on the screen that said something like, "There's no such thing as a protected profession." And that just struck me, right, really quickly. And it really made clear for me the level of fear that exists in the world about what AI is coming to do. But I think that there are so many applications of how you can utilize AI to support what it is that you're doing, and it's not a replacement. And so that's what really kind of stood out to me, is how can it be utilized to help make keener insights and observations, as opposed to it replacing. But just hearing that it's not going to be something that goes away, that it's here to stay, and we best get our arms around what it is and the nuances of it, instead of just categorizing it very broadly and fearing it.
And I mean, this is very relevant to me right now, because I'm feeling this is a trigger for me, because we're just mid Salesforce implementation at CoachSource, and I'm on that change curve and struggling right now. So I'm triggered by this. Yeah, this subject, it's been such a huge point of debate at recent conferences. So I was at the EMCC conference in early summer, which was attended by about 300 plus delegates, including coaches and organizational leads. It came up, it was big on the agenda there. Mary, I know that yourself and Brian attended a tech conference in the summer as well, and it was a big focus of debate and conversation there. The rate of pace and scale of tech advancement right now has been unseen. That is a fact. And the World Economic Forum actually offers some data around how this is going to impact on the decline or growth of job roles in the next 3 to 5 years. And what I found really interesting and important for the space we're working is, critically, AI and leadership skills will be the most important skills for the future. So what we're doing now and what we're equipping leaders with is going to be crucial for how things are going with the change in tech. We're noticing a growth in the industry areas of sustainability, climate action, social value, and the tech space. And one of the statistics was that Gen AI has a potential to actually drive 30% increased productivity across the HR chain in the near future. So I think that's a really important conversations we can be having with our HR business partners. But going back to Carol, Carol spoke about the many different ways tech and AI helps. There's 2 things here. There's how it helps coaches become even more effective coaches to leaders, but also what we're hearing from the leaders as well. There was agreement broadly that AI does not replace the human coach. It builds and enhances the impact of the work that coaches are already doing. And I think we're hearing that echoed by what leaders are saying. They want to work in the moment with a human being. So it's kind of reassuring there. I also think that, sorry, I'm just looking at my notes. Bear with me, sorry. The text playing up already for me. There we are. So some of the tech offerings, again, we're panicking, but some of those are still maturing. Some we're using routinely, and some like Gen AI are maturing. So I think there's the opportunity to experiment, explore, see what's possible, have conversations, look at opportunities and ways of really utilizing that. Professional bodies are researching the impact of AI in the profession. As I referred to earlier, the ICF have published a paper. But more importantly, what leaders are saying about this is it's a key trend in discovery calls. They're still making sense of it. They're experimenting, and organisations are still unclear about the direction of travel and how they want to use it. As Zia alluded to, there's a huge fear around it. Fears about the impact on their roles. Will I still have a job? What does it mean for what I've got to learn and do differently? Is it going to be another thing that I need to add to my already busy workload? So I think it's about coaches helping leaders think about the possibilities of AI in tech and unlocking those possibilities through that conversation, exploring what the changes mean for the leader, their teams, and the impact and benefits to their organizations. So I think there's lots happening in the space, lots of conversations. I'm personally, my view is that you can't replace a human being. What humans do in the coaching space cannot be replicated, but that's my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Go ahead, Zia.
I was just thinking, you said something, Charmaine, about experimentation, and it made me think of something that was in the session, which was Carol shared something about that employees might be experimenting, right, with AI, but it has the possibility to help organizations transform. So that
Yes.
experimentation can lead to transformation. And there are
Yes.
many people that are already finding ways to implement AI to enhance what it is that they're doing. So those aren't the people that are really scared of AI. They're embracing it and finding ways that AI can make them better. And so I think that that's going to continue to be a top trend, that we want to make sure that our clients and organizations aren't lagging behind in this particular industry, because your employees, your leaders are on the ground and they're finding ways to utilize it in their personal lives and their professional lives to enhance what it is that they're contributing to the organization, to society itself, and to themselves. And so having organizations that recognize that there might be a way to tap into this in order to expand what they're already able to do, I think is going to be really, really valuable.
And I
I've
think
just noticed a question by Elizabeth, sorry, Mary, I was just about to bring up the point of how might AI support a coaching practice?
Yes.
Because we talked about that in the session actually, and what coaches are doing to help use the tech to help them coach better. So things like, getting those industry insights, looking at the trends, pulling the data and getting summaries of the coaching, so that they're able to kind of start thinking about, what's coming up, what trends are emerging when they are having coaching sessions with leaders. How can they use that information to prepare better with their coaching practice? But I don't know, Zia, what you've...
I want to pull Jeff in on that, because we can talk about ways that CoachSource coaches might be using AI in our engagements. But before I do that, I just want to make one comment about, I was just listening to an interview with he's the CEO of AI for Microsoft. And what he was talking about is that one of the biggest use cases for people is going to be, and he said this will be within the next 12 to 18 months, because the level of hallucination is still too high right now with AI, but that he sees that going down over the next 12 to 18 months. And it will be as an assistant, as a thought partner. So, for those of us, most of the people that we're coaching and working with are in, knowledge space, right? We are knowledge workers. And so what we add to leadership, to leading organizations, to helping grow and scale is that knowledge, right? Of being able to synthesize information, of being able to see around corners. As we talked in the last session, AI is primarily backward looking because it's programmed by what has come before. And so it's always going to be, what human beings bring is about the ability to look forward. What does this mean? Where does it go? So yes, there's a lot of fear inside organizations, but then there's also a lot of opportunity to, we've seen technology help in industries that are dangerous, like more manual, of being able to take on some of that. And I think on the knowledge side, what we're going to see is that some of the drudgery of the day-to-day work that has to be done could be taken over by an assistant, and how helpful that could be. So moving on from that, Jeff, if you want to jump in and just share, I know you recently saw a tool at a conference as well.
Sure. So let me speak to our corporate clients and our corporate prospects. First of all, at CoachSource, we want you to know that your corporate approach to AI and what you're going to use and what you're going to allow your partners and vendors to use or not is paramount. So when you start to work with us and you're working with Charmaine or Zia or our client account teams, let us know what level of or types of AI you're permitting inside your organization that the leaders we're going to be coaching are allowed to use for themselves, and the degree to which you will allow us to use some AI or digital tools in your coaching engagements. Second of all, we're also looking at what can we offer to make this coaching engagement even better for you. One of the things that we hear from clients a lot is, well, we know you're coaching our senior executives, so if we wanted a coach bot just to throw a few questions in their text on their phone, we would have gotten into their service, and that's not what we want from you. Excellent, that's why we're here. But you want things to speed up at certain aspects of the coaching engagement. For example, getting things started. And when our client services teams do a discovery call with the leader and gather information, if you allow it, we'd love to put that information along with what we have about your company into AI, not to do anything specific, but to make that process faster so we can match an even better coach beyond what was said in the call or what we think we know, or what you share with us in kind of a vendor partner open house, if you will, and told us what you're like. This helps make that match much faster. The second spot we've heard organizations want things to move faster is, well, we don't want kind of an off-the-shelf 360. We would like the coach and the coachee to craft coach goal-specific questions and then do an interview-based 360 stakeholder feedback process. Our coaches are excellent at that, and this is one of the reasons that our high touch, if you will, or specific way of getting 360 data really matters and why clients come to us. However, you want that process to go faster. So do we, so do our coaches. So the degree to which you'll let us use, the coach use AI in the background, maybe it's not for the interview, but it's taking all that data, anonymizing it, taking all the names out, taking your company information out, but then using different types of AI in the background to start to pull out themes or to start to look at the data from several different angles. Not just the coach's view, because they were actually there doing the interviews. We'd love to have that permission space to do that. At CoachSource, we're also looking at tools that we can offer to you, offer to our coaches. And CoachSource spoke at the International Coach Federation Midwest Conference last week, and there were two different vendors that in just the past 8 months, their AI-based tools are not one way of doing coaching, but it's the way the coach can actually train the AI to be kind of like a clone. So one of the things you've asked for is, how can we use technology between the sessions so that the leader that is in your company and the coach don't have to be together all the time, but it's like the coach is there. We're looking at tools like that. We've actually piloted and looked at a couple of tools that were not up to standard for us. We know they would not be up to standard for your executives or your organizations, but we are running down that pathway really fast. And AI is catching up to what you've asked of us. Customized coaching where the human is in charge, including the leader in your organization, but there are tools and things that run in the background that accelerate the entire coaching experience.
Mm-hmm. That's great. Yeah, that's great. Okay, wonderful. More to come on that front, as this is not a topic that is going away, as we know. Okay, so as we talk about moving from technology, let's move back to human coaching experience, which is a segue into an inspiring keynote session that was delivered by Marcia Reynolds. And Marcia reminded the coaches of the impact that they have on human potential and gave us a demonstration using one of our coaches of coaching a whole person. So let's talk about how that plays out in the coaches' executive coaching engagements And specifically, let's talk to what our clients, what the organizations may see as a result of that approach.
Yeah, that's a really great one. And Marsha Reynolds' session probably is the one that still stands out in my mind. As a coach as well, it was really great. I think her title was something about keeping the spark alive. But what I got out of it was the real understanding that the level of coaches that we have out there are really looking to coach the whole person, right? And not just the what. And at its core, pure coaching is coaching the who and not the what. Because if you coach the who, then the who can come up with solutions and strategies to overcome potential solutions. By just focusing on the what, the who doesn't have the ability, right? And the capacity to really self-generate ideas for suggestions. So the way that I saw this breaking down is a lot of times when we're having discovery calls with clients or leaders directly, we're hearing from them about the leadership competencies that they want to work on. One particularly that stands out in my mind are folks that come in and say that they need more self-development, self-insight, more awareness of who they are. I could see this being deployed specifically for those types of coaching engagements where you do get to focus on the whole person and coach them through instead of the situation or the business challenge. So I see that kind of coupled with a couple of things. Often folks who are coming in who might need some self-development or self-insight might also need a little help in the EQ area as well, which does also allow for coaches to deploy this approach. But we also see lots of engagements that are all about executive presence, enhancing communication skills, managing up, leading at the enterprise level. And so I'm really, really interested into the coaches who have that skill set to be able to think with both sides of their brain, right? To really kind of approach a person as a whole and coach them through it, but have a particular focus on the business challenges or opportunities that that particular leader is facing at that moment. And so I loved her session. I thought that she said some really great things. And the one that stays in my mind is that when you employ an approach like she just mentioned to us, that coaches provide a great value because by coaching the whole person, you see people. And when people feel seen, then they're able to recognize and claim their best self with clarity and confidence. They can realize what's possible now and also in the future. And isn't that what we want of all of our leaders, to be focused on the here and now, but also understand the endless possibilities of what could be in the future as well?
Ties back into the culture conversation we
It
had earlier
does.
as well. Yeah. How about you, Charmaine?
Yeah, again, just echoing a bit of what Zia said, the coaches are meeting the leader where they're at and creating that sanctity of that safe and brave space for them to really dig deep. You can only do that when you have the right psychological safety and you're taking into account the whole person in that space. That's what really transforms good leaders into great leaders. More often than not, when we have discovery calls with leaders before they even get into the coaching space, that 30 minutes you have with them where you validate them, they feel seen, they feel heard, you get so much from that 30 minutes. They really open up, they really share the lived experience, they really share some of the things that they're grappling with, some of their lived experience that might be getting in the way, some of what excites them, So that 30 minutes gives you a window of opportunity to validate that before they even get into the coaching space. So we know they appreciate that. And coaches take into account the whole person for true transformation. You can't segment a human being and say, we're just going to look at this or that. It doesn't work that way. We're complex human beings, and you have to have that whole holistic approach when you're working with a leader. And again, what struck me from our coaches is the real privilege they felt at being able to do that. And the responsibility of doing that is huge. So we take that very seriously, and the coaches felt very honoured and privileged that they get to work in that way with leaders.
Yeah. Yeah, I think she said one last thing about, coaching really helps to disrupt people's thinking and help to expand it. In order to disrupt one's thinking, you have to coach the person, right? Not the situation. And so to me, that just underscored the importance of starting, like you said, after a chemistry conversation, or on your first kickoff call, an alignment session where you're really sharing with your coach as a leader who you are and what the opportunities are that you see. And that coach is going to approach it with a curiosity, because the more they understand about your thinking, the better they're going to be able to disrupt it, so that you can really use the coaching experience as the ability to be talking to a trusted thinking partner, which is all coaching is all about.
Oh, that's great. Okay. So let's, we have a couple more things that we want to discuss, but I want to So we're at the 45-minute mark. Just move into open it up for Q&A as we continue that conversation. So Jason, if you could advance to the Q&A slide, it also has a save the date for our next session, which will be on Friday, November 1st at 11 a.m. And calling all HR VPs, we are going to be discussing driving leadership transformation, HR VPs empowering executives through executive coaching partnerships. And as I mentioned earlier, if there's other topics that you would like to see us cover, you can send that to me at mary@coachsource.com. And just remind our clients who are here and are not yet clients that CoachSource is here as a thought leadership and strategic partner. If you want to talk further about our executive coach pool and the various business challenges that we're helping clients solve, you're welcome to reach out to me, or if you're a current client, to reach out to your CoachSource director of coaching, the client service director. So we're always happy to have that conversation with you. So we open this up. Elizabeth, we appreciate your question about the AI tools. This really isn't a conversation that we wanted to go deep in AI. I encourage you to take a look at our last session that we did last month, where we went into a deep dive specifically around AI and then directed to some resources where you can find out more about the tools that are being used. So one last thing I wanted to for Zia and Charmaine, as questions are coming into the chat, to just talk about, having spent this time with the coaches, what it means in terms of the way that you're working with the coaches and the way you bring that to the clients, what you learned from your time spent, how does that carry forward in your work? How might our clients see that showing up? One of the things that I know happened with the session is, for instance, Andrea, who I know is here too, had a specific request for coaches that would be able to coach in India, and just putting out that request there and being able to source, from the conversations, several options for a client who has that particular need. But anything else that you want to share from that?
Yeah, I think you literally just laid it out. So Andrea wasn't the only person able to source for clients and leaders looking to connect with great coaches. I mean, I had an audience of 70 coaches who were there in Dublin with us. Coaches are just such a generous group of people. They are always willing to share insights, materials. If they've written an article, they're going to send it to you. So I just got to learn so much more, deeper insights, right? Past the surface, which you have no idea how helpful that is. A lot of the times I'm hearing what I need to hear from a leader in terms of what they want to work on in a discovery call through coaching, but I'm also learning a little bit about what they're not saying as well. And so as much as I can glean from who they are, where they come from, what their culture is, the better I'm able to align them with coaches who are really going to resonate with them. And we try to make sure that we're checking all the boxes. But again, it's an art and a science to matching. Being at that forum made our jobs easier, which makes life better for our clients and for the leaders that we serve, because now we can quickly help to connect you to wonderful coaches so that you can get to the important work of addressing whatever development needs or opportunities that you have. So having them all there, seeing how willing to raise their hands, that they're available and interested in certain industries or working with certain clients, was really valuable. And it helps speed up the time by which we're able to put leaders in front of coaches that will be wonderful to partner with.
Yeah, for me, over a pint of Guinness, I had the offer of 5 coaches that were happy to work with the intercultural rub between Italian business culture and US business culture. So I stepped into that forum needing to diversify a coach pool, and I came out with 4 or 5 people saying, hey, I've got experience working in Italy, working in the US, working and negotiating, and those nuances of how you work across intercultural effectiveness. So just from that perspective, breaking bread over Guinness was really valuable. I had some great insights into what the coaches were seeing with our partners, which was really helpful for me, being one of the newer directors at CoachSource and still building up some of my knowledge base. gathering those industry insights. Our partners are asking for what is happening down the road with the neighbours. They want to know what we're seeing, what we're hearing, what trends are coming out, what opportunities are coming out. So the coach is generously offering some insights into areas that they understand in industry. To me, again, helped me build up my knowledge base, so I'm able to step into those spaces being more informed. From a personal perspective, I learned a lot. I'm also an executive coach, so I had the benefit of the CPD whilst I was there. But really thinking about how I can improve how I partner with organisations, with leaders, with the coach community in this role, and what are the things that I can do differently to really add more value. I found super helpful. Yeah.
Fantastic. And Jeff, I'm going to pull you back in and just, I don't know if you want to share a little bit about what the purpose is in doing these gatherings and what our goal is, for our clients and for our coaches in pulling this together, and then maybe share what you might see coming down the pike with the coaching.
Great, yes. So the purpose of these forums, and I've been writing about this as well on LinkedIn and our insights pages in our CoachSource. It's not just it's not an employee offsite in Dublin. Our goal was to have the client services teams who work with our clients and work with prospects to get coaching started, and as many coaches as who can come on those 2.5 days to really work together to figure out how we can serve you better. And you've heard some examples of that, but our focus is really to make what we deliver to your leaders in your organizations even better than what we think we're delivering, because of the nature of building relationships and learning from each other in real time. As Zia and Charmaine said, the benefit of CoachSource is we have a lot of science and a lot of data and a great system that runs in the background, but we also have art and really experienced folks like Zia and Charmaine and 15 others who work together to make sure you get exactly what you need and it fits exactly in the spot with your leader that they need to get their coaching and to get their business impact as they complete coaching to really, really happen. What we'll see and what you'll notice, if you're not a client, if you're a client, you won't see this, but if you're a coach, we have a Connect platform where we continue to develop our coaches and gather them together for a variety of things: professional development, learning from each other, talking about specific use cases around industry sectors, what's happening in those areas, different types of coaching needs that our leaders are having. So we are continually having these virtual types of forums, if you will, for a few hours to really enrich our coaches and make them ready to coach with you. Some things we're seeing on the horizon that you and your companies might be experiencing already: leaders who need to confront and embrace conflict as a part of leading instead of avoiding it. Leaders who may have been identified as ADHD or not paying attention or scatterbrain, there really is coaching to help those leaders in their neurodiversity be even better in the organization, not to cancel out the art and the science behind their neurodiversity, but to leverage it. And we're also seeing more coaching around how do I get this leader to be more creative, innovative, and think outside their own expertise, because we need that now in this company. And we have coaches who coach specifically in all of those spaces and more. And we're happy to learn what your needs are and what you see that you didn't think you'd need for your executive leaders, and have coaching and other executive development experiences help you achieve those.
Fantastic. All right. Well, we are almost to time, and I don't see any other questions in the Q&A. So I don't know, Charmaine, Zia, Jeff, last call on adding any additional comments. If not, we're going to thank everybody for being here today and look forward to seeing you on the first Friday of November. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.